Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Every Halloween, one of America's first ghost stories rises to the surface of the human psyche. The tale of the demonic, pumpkin-headed Dark Rider, the legend of Sleepy Hollow. Washington Irving's 1820 story tells a tale of how a headless horseman terrorized the real-world town of Sleepy Hollow. The story tells us of how the lanky newcomer and schoolmaster Ichabod Crane falls in love with Katrina Van Tassel, a young heiress, who the Dutchman Brom Bones is also pursuing. After leaving a party at Katrina's family farm, Ichabod is hunted down by a headless horseman, who throws a pumpkin at Ichabod, knocking him from his horse. Ichabod is never seen from again. The monster of Irving's story is far from original. Irving himself was friends with the Scottish poet Sir Walter Scott, who features a demonic horseman in his 1796 story, The Chase, a translation of the German poem The Wild Huntsman by Gottfried Berger, and that is likely based on Norse mythology. The legend of the decapitated horseman carrying his own head under his arm, haunting the roads of highways, crops up in numerous European storytelling traditions, from Gawain and the Green Knight, from stories from the Brothers Grimm. However, like many Halloween traditions, the headless horseman figure stems all the way back to early Irish folklore and mythology. The Dullahan, meaning the dark man, was a malevolent harbinger of death, said to be the embodiment of Crom Dove, a fertility god who demanded blood sacrifices in the forms of decapitation, as they believed the head was where the soul was located. As you can imagine, his worship ended with the coming of Christianity to Ireland. Said to be frustrated by the lack of sacrifices for his divine body, the Dullahan is said to be the embodiment of the god, roaming the roads, calling out the names of those who are doomed to die, and carrying his head under his arm. The flesh of the face that are tucked under his arm are decayed, and the decay bears a specific reference to the consistency of mouldy cheese, a detail which occurs in many of the tellings of his tale. Wherever the Dullahan stops, a mortal dies. If you watch him pass by, you will either have a bucket of blood thrown on your face, or you might be struck blind in one eye. The Dullahan didn't blind people with magic. Instead, he used his trusty whip made of a human spine to whip the eyes out of onlookers. However, if he stops wherever you are and calls out your name, your soul will be drawn from your body and you will leave the world of the living. The Dullahan is the harbinger of someone's demise, and there is no defence against him. Except, perhaps, an object made of gold, for legend has it he has an irrational fear of the metal. One story from Galway says that a man was on his way home when, all of a sudden, he heard the sound of a horse's hooves pounding along the road behind him. Terrified, he turned around to look, and it was the Dullahan. He tried to run, but nothing could outrun the demonic horseman. But thankfully, the man remembered that if he couldn't outrun him, he could outsmart him. And with that, he dropped a gold coin on the road. There was a loud roar in the air high above him, and as he turned around to look, the Dullahan was gone. Although the Dullahan is most often illustrated as a headless horseman, he is also sometimes depicted as a headless man riding in a creepy black coach known as the coach bower, or a silent coach, which is often accompanied by a banshee. See, the coach bower, it's summoned by the wails of the banshee, and it will rumble through the streets of villages, and where it stops is an omen of death. The coach must return with at least one soul on board, and that soul cannot escape its final destination. It is believed that if the coach bower is approaching, then gated roads should be opened to allow the coach to pass. People were afraid to witness the death coach, as it could mean imminent death for whoever saw it, or the death of a loved one. It was also believed that if you opened the door to a coach bower, a basin of blood would be thrown on your face. But before we get any further, I'd like to take a quick moment to thank today's sponsor, which is Squarespace. I have built all of my main business websites over the past few years with Squarespace because I love how intuitive and easy it makes website design and layout. I mean, look at my beautiful website. I love it so much. I love blogging. It's such a great outlet for me. But with Squarespace, I can actually make this blogging deal actually a business. I know nothing about coding, so I want to focus more on the creative side, writing good blog posts, and even working on merchandise and my email list, etc. And so I don't have to worry about coding and all that kind of stuff, which is so frustrating. But with Squarespace, I don't have to deal with any of that. I can focus on the creativity by simply dragging and dropping my content where I want it. And if you're a creator who wants to expand your revenue stream, then Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that makes it easy for you to monetize your content and expertise in a way that fits your brand. You can sell merch on your shop. There's a member area that lets you sell courses to your followers, and it has an inbuilt email campaign option where you can collect emails from your subscribers and convert them into customers, all from your website. Additionally, the built-in analytics feature gives you insight into who's visiting your site, the traffic sources, the time they spend there, the most read content, your audience geography, and so much more. So if you want to expand your business or just build a beautiful website for your blogging leisure, then go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Lady of the Library to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back into it. One of the most popular stories of the Coach Bower dates back to 1806. As a sick man lay dying on his bed, his children sent for the doctor and sat outside waiting for his arrival. After a while, they heard the distant noise of a coach with its rumbling wheels getting closer and closer. Then suddenly they saw this large, dark coach entering the courtyard. The two older children, both young men, walked down the steps to greet the doctor, but to their surprise, the coach didn't stop. It continued down the avenue and passed between the fence and the hedges towards the closed gate. The two young men ran to the gate, but were surprised to find it locked, and the coach had vanished without a trace. Not realizing what had just happened, they woke the lodgekeeper to check the whereabouts of the gate keys, only to find them tucked away safely under his lodgekeeper's pillow. Shortly after the mysterious disappearance, the doctor arrived at the house. Unfortunately, it was too late. The sick man had passed away just a few hours earlier. The Coach Bower has been famously referenced in Thomas Johnson Westop's A Folklore Survey of the Country Clare. One of the most interesting tales in the book is the one describing the death of Sir Burton McNamara, which was presumably caused by a Dullahan. The tale goes as follows. On the night of December 11, 1876, a servant of the McNamaras was going his rounds in Ennistonmun. In the dark, he heard the rumbling of wheels on the back avenue, and knowing from the hour and the place that no motor vehicle could be coming, concluded that it was the death coach. So he ran on and opened the gates before it. He had just time to open the third gate and throw himself on his face beside the bank before he heard the coach go clanking past. It didn't stop at the house, but passed on. The following day, Admiral Sir Burton McNamara died in London. Another headless figure that haunts Samhain is the White Lady, or Lady Gwyn, or Wen, of the British Isles. This fairy, protector, victim, seductress, and sometimes kidnapper is sometimes thought of as though she is a harmless soul. But in other stories, she is a headless evil conjurer, always accompanied by the devil, in the form of a black sow. In South Wales, men dressed up as her in sheepskin and ragged clothes, and masked and sang to summon her from the apple orchards, where she hid with her pigs. In Scotland, during the Samhain hunt, when the fairy mounds were open and spirits traversed the thin veil between the worlds, people said that they saw her floating in the haunted woodland spirit with the souls of unbaptized children. The White Irish Lady of Kinsale was a bit like Mrs. Havisham. She was only seen by children, but she is known as a mourning bride who wanders through the fort where her husband died. Children are the ones that say they see her hovering over the candles, looking down at them. That was a tale of the Headless Horseman, the Dullahan, and other headless figures of Halloween. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing for more videos like this. And there is a Google form in the description box below where you can send a request. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you are happy and healthy. And remember, books save lives, so keep reading, especially during Halloween.